my friend. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, scary things out there. And you know what? There's the reports of cryptids everywhere. Some of it is folklore. Some of it could be real. Some could be coming through a hole into whatever, from another dimension, a parallel universe. Well, anyway, we'll be back in about 3.5 minutes with our next guest, William Pullin, talking about UFOs. So stay tuned and tell your friends about Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
Good evening, or morning, depending on your time zone. From the Pacific to the Atlantic to you worldwide. Get yourself a cup of java and find a comfy, easy chair. And get ready for Gary and his guest on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. And now, here's Gary.
And here I am. I'll tell you what, we've gone from cryptics to, UFOs with our next guest. William Pullin is going to be on in about 1 minute. Are UFOs real? Well, we'll find out with our guest, William Pullin. Let's get him on the line now. I tell you, tonight it's just moving along great. A lot of people message me on texts and emails. I'll tell you what, it's been a great night. And it's going to even get better when we get him on. Well, William, how you doing tonight? You're on Night Dreams Talk Radio.
You?
Doing good. We just got done with Jason Offutt talking about, American monsters. Now we're going to talk about UFOs. What's going on out there about UFOs?
Oh, there's always activity out there. There's always UFO reports, no matter where you look anywhere in the world. People look up in the skies and see things they can't identify. And there's always a few reports out there that are really thought-provoking, that are really grab you by the collar and say, what's going on here? Because most reports are explainable. There's always a few out there, but it's an everyday thing. I mean, if you just dig around in the local media outlets around wherever you live, and you can find a anomalous event that is unexplained, and always interesting to look. Always interesting to look.
Oh, yeah. Now, do you know who Terry Lovelace is?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know anything other than that, no.
Okay, he was a former U.S. Attorney General, a lawyer in Texas. He's been on my show about 3 times. He claims him and his buddy back, I think in the mid-70s or mid-80s, they were medics in a hospital in the Air Force. They decided to go camping. Neither one of them had any experience. They went camping. They thought they were on a state campground, but they made a wrong turn. They ended up, well, they didn't know at the time they were on U.S. government property. And during the night, they saw these weird triangle lights coming closer, closer, closer. And then all of a sudden, it landed, and they saw these little creatures, and he goes into it about his abduction and all that stuff. And I tell you what, of all the people I've talked to about being abducted, this guy, it's so interesting. And as far as, his sighting, everything that happened, what he saw in the UFO, let alone when he went back to the base, the guys in the security, in the suits, wanted to interview him, and they sold him pentothal and all this stuff. It was interesting story, really interesting.
It sounds interesting, yeah. I mean, you're on U.S. government property, and certainly the government / military has operations going on you and I as civilians are unaware of.
Oh, yeah.
And there's always been this idea that the few UFOs that are potentially extraterrestrial in origin, they seem to have a little more than a cursory interest in military installations. Because some of our strongest cases have to do with military interactions with UFOs. So that's a fascinating story. I mean, the abduction scenario is always a fascinating topic to discuss, because what's being reported is truly anomalous, and whether one decides to believe in the reality of alien abduction or not, you still need to explain the data. And a lot of these cases, not all of them, but a lot of them, these individuals have no reason to lie, no reason to hoax it. They clearly experienced something, and it's affected them emotionally, mentally. Their lives are thrown into chaos by what they experienced. So clearly something's going on. So the way you described that gentleman's encounter, experience, event, very interesting.
Oh, very interesting. What you should do is the next time he's on, I'm going to have him on for 4 hours straight. I mean,
excellent.
And maybe you might want to come on and ask a few questions. You're welcome to, because I'll tell you, I've interviewed since. Well, I didn't really get into UFO things. It didn't start till like the mid '80s, but I've been in radio since '76. But the mid '80s is when I started getting phone calls about UFOs and stuff. I've had so many people claim that they've been abducted, and a lot of them, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't believe. There's a small percentage I do believe. When I got Terry Lovelace on, he's one of them I strongly believe, because he's a very credible person. Very credible.
Yeah, that goes a long way. Yeah. The name is awfully familiar. I'm probably the blur of all the reports and sightings I've gone over. I've probably read his event and the account of it at some point. But the name is very familiar. I'm with you. I mean, a lot of these things are certainly explainable by mundane phenomenon. But there's a core of sightings, whether you're talking abductions or radar visuals or nocturnal lights or whatever the case is, whatever aspect of the UFO topic you want to discuss. There's a small percentage that remain unexplained that are really thought-provoking and really grab you and say, something's really going on here. This is a credible person, a qualified individual, a trained observer that's recounting this event that took place. And like you said, if they're a very credible person, then there's no reason to lie, and they haven't hoaxed it. That goes a long way toward credibility for a case.
Well, I would think somebody, especially if it was a former attorney general, a prosecuting attorney, it handled a lot of criminal cases. I mean, again, the guy is very credible. And I again, after he was on the first time, I've had him on, James, 3 times now?
Yeah, 3 times, and every time we learn a little bit something more. And his story, I'm telling you, it's bone chilling. It's so so much conviction to it. You can tell it's sincere, and it is something to hear.
Yeah. I'm sure it is. Yeah, I'll take you all now. I'll when I find out, let me know when you have the gentleman on again. I'll call in. I would love to ask him some questions. Yeah, get more information about the case.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a good thing. Yeah.
Well, by the way, congratulations. I've seen your Facebook Live show, and I find it very intriguing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's. I give all the credit to my research partner, Nicole Sackett. She's really got me out of my shell. I always did audio commentaries out of my page. I really didn't want to show my ugly mug to the world, but she convinced me to do a video, and it's kind of taking off. We have a lot of viewers, and people are interested in our take, and may not always agree, but we really try to get a conversation going. I always go back to testimony. People are reporting bizarre events, and it's only a good thing if you discuss it. If you can discuss it out in the open and say, what's going on here? What's not going on here? Is your sighting similar to mine? What's being seen? What have they seen? What has he seen? And just discuss it out in the open, which has been difficult to do for the past few decades. You really can't, discuss UFOs with your mother-in-law. But if you can find like-minded individuals, and there's no ridicule, it's so comfortable and it's wonderful to be able to talk about UFOs in an open forum. So we really try to get that going in our program.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
I noticed that. And you know what? You can say it to the mother-in-law, but the mother-in-law is going to tell her daughter afterwards, I told you, Helen, you should not have married him. I told you he was weird.
There you go.
Yeah.
Although I've been accused of being weird since I was about 12, so I'm just following through on that. So
I told you, I fell in this all accidentally. When my first broadcasting job, or one of my first ones, I was supposed to be doing Top 40. I was hired. A month later, I started my job. I walk in the radio station, and everybody's staring at me. And it was so uncomfortable. And the next thing I know, the owner of the station, the program director, and the station manager said, come into this room. And I remember sitting down. I figured, okay, they're going to fire me before I even start. And they said, well, you got a choice of two things. We're not Top 40 anymore. We're now talk radio. I never did talk radio. I just recently graduated out of, being a DJ school. And they said, well, you have your choice. So, and I already rented an apartment, moved my girlfriend there at the time. We were all set up. So I took on talk radio. And all of a sudden, in the area by Battleground, Washington, there was a cult around there where people were being kidnapped and all this stuff. And that started me in the paranormal, and it stuck, and here I'm still talking paranormal. But, this UFO thing, normally what I find every year around January, it starts dropping off. But this year, it hasn't. It's actually been at least what I've been getting on reports. And when I go on to, some like the National Reporting Center with Davenport, it seems like it's increasing.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario. I mean, I'm always cautious when making declarations about, are sightings going on an uptick or dwindling or what have you, because it seems that, and most researchers I've discussed it with, there's this belief that most UFO sightings go unreported. So there may be an uptick in sightings, or the numbers may be holding firm. But unfortunately, we really don't know how many sightings are occurring. If we knew that, let's say 80% of sightings are being reported, then we could trust the numbers a little more. We don't know how many individuals are seeing something that are not saying anything. And that, for me as a researcher, that's very troubling, because how many really anomalous, solid cases are out there that describe events that are really bizarre, that are UFO related, but no one's saying anything. No one's reported it. And it's kind of fallen through the cracks, so that's a scary thought. I don't know. I mean, there's times during the year where it seems to drop off, it seems to rise up, certain other times, but I'm always worried that people are too busy looking at their cell phones, looking down instead of up. And I think in past decades, that was less of an issue because people looked up. They looked up into the skies and observed what was over their head, and more likely to see something anomalous. Nowadays, it's a little scary how many people